In a move that's sparking both applause and outrage across political and cultural circles, a group of Republican lawmakers has introduced a controversial proposal to rename the Kennedy Center Opera House in Washington, D.C., in honor of former First Lady Melania Trump. The bill, introduced by Representative Greg Steube RFL, and co-sponsored by several conservative colleagues, calls for the world-renowned venue to be rechristened the Melania Trump Opera House. The legislation claims to recognize Melania Trump's contributions to the arts, her restoration work during her time in the White House, and her commitment to American cultural heritage. But for critics, the move is nothing more than political theater aimed at stoking partisan division. The proposal in unveiling the bill, Representative Steube praised Melania Trump's elegance, grace, and unwavering support for the arts, asserting that she brought dignity to the role of First Lady and worked behind the scenes to restore historical architecture and preserve national treasures. Republican supporters of the measure argue that Melania Trump deserves recognition equal to past First Ladies, especially considering her work on the White House's historic rooms, her Be Best initiative, and her often understated presence in public life. She represents a modern vision of American womanhood, traditional, refined, and unbothered by media circus, said Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the bill's most vocal proponents. The bill proposes the renaming as a standalone tribute, not as a replacement of the Kennedy name entirely, though the implications have been viewed differently across the aisle. Cultural lightning rod. The John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts is one of the nation's most iconic institutions. Named after the 35th President of the United States in 1964 as a memorial to his commitment to the arts, the Opera House, one of its crown jewels, has hosted decades of performances by the world's most prestigious artists and is considered sacred ground in American cultural circles. To rename a part of the Kennedy Center in honor of a member of the Trump family, particularly amid ongoing political polarization, has ignited fierce backlash. Democrats and cultural commentators quickly condemned the proposal as revisionist, insulting, and a blatant political stunt. Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez Dion called it an affront to the legacy of President Kennedy and the cultural integrity of the institution. Others point out the irony of attempting to rewrite Kennedy's legacy with that of a First Lady, who was often criticized for being detached from the public and who rarely spoke out on pressing cultural issues. The idea of replacing Kennedy's name with Trump's any Trump, frankly, is not just tone-deaf, it's a cultural provocation, tweeted historian Kevin Cruz. Kennedy championed the arts. Trump attacked them. Melania's public image is her polarizing time in the White House. Melania Trump maintains a devoted base of admirers, especially among conservative women. She has kept a low profile since leaving Washington in 2021, rarely making public appearances and avoiding political commentary. Altogether, her supporters view her as an elegant and underappreciated First Lady, who resisted the media frenzy and focused on substance over showmanship. They cite her redesigns of the White House Rose Garden and her attention to detail in historical restorations as justifying her inclusion in the annals of American cultural preservation. But detractors argue that Melania Trump's contributions, while tasteful and traditional, don't rise to the level of permanently affixing her name to one of the most revered opera houses in the world. Restoring a room is not the same as building a cultural legacy, wrote one op-ed in the Washington Post. Political gamesmanship. Many political analysts view the proposal as part of a broader strategy by Republicans to reframe the Trump legacy through symbolism. Ahead of the 2024 election season, with Donald Trump continuing to dominate the GOP and potentially eyeing another term, cementing the Trump brand into America's cultural institutions may be seen as a long-game tactic. Whether it passes or not is almost beside the point, says political strategist Tara Walker. The bill signals loyalty, generates outrage, and keeps Trump at the center of the narrative. It's about optics and headlines. The proposal has also reignited long-standing debates about how America names its buildings, landmarks, and historical spaces. Critics argue that renaming institutions based on recent political figures, especially divisive ones, sets a dangerous precedent. Will it pass? Despite the furor, the bill faces steep odds. Democrats currently hold the majority in the Senate, and have already signaled they have no intention of allowing the legislation to advance. Even within Republican ranks, there are whispers of hesitation about using Melania Trump's name in such a high-profile and culturally sensitive manner. The Kennedy Center itself, a federally supported institution but operated by a private board, has not issued a public statement on the proposal. However, insiders suggest that any name change would face immense pushback from patrons, donors, and the artistic community. "It's not just about politics," said one Kennedy Center board member on condition of anonymity. "It's about legacy, symbolism, and respecting the artistic traditions that transcend party lines." Public reaction social media exploded following the announcement. Hashtags like #Save the Kennedy Center and #MELANIA Opera House trended simultaneously, showcasing the divisiveness of the issue. While many Trump supporters flooded X, formerly Twitter, with celebratory posts calling Melania America's true First Lady, critics lambasted the GOP for attempting to erase history. Memes of Melania superimposed over opera stages, side by side with Jackie Kennedy, quickly circulated, as both supporters and opponents took to the digital battlefield. Final thoughts: whether the bill succeeds or fades into the long list of symbolic legislation that never reaches the floor, one thing is certain: the move has rekindled deep cultural and political tensions in America. At the heart of the debate lies a fundamental question: who gets to define legacy in a divided nation? Naming a landmark after someone is never just about honoring a name, it's about the values, vision, and version of history a society chooses to elevate. And in this case, the proposal to rename the Kennedy Center Opera House after Melania Trump is more than a nod to a First Lady. It's high-stakes clash between tradition, political identity, and the future of America's cultural memory.